So the first one, the possessive cases of most of the personal pronouns, they have two forms. And let's talk about their two forms. For example, this is my book, or that is her book. Those are your books, or these are mine books. These are my books. So the possessive cases of these pronouns, they have two forms. So if you talk about my, her, your, again my, and if you have something like maybe their or his, these are called possessive adjectives. Because if you see, they're not acting as pronouns in this case, they're acting as adjectives. They're describing the book or the books. So they are acting as possessive adjectives at this point of time because they're used with nouns and they're doing the work of adjectives. And sometimes these adjectives are also called pronominal adjectives. You don't probably need to know the term, but just for knowledge, I'm telling you this. Pronominal adjectives because they're made from pronouns. For example, let's take another important point. This is his book. Can you guess what is the word his in this case? It is a possessive adjective. But if I say this book is his, now in this case the word his is not describing a noun right now. So in this case it's a plain possessive pronoun. Again, most probably you do not need to know the terminology. If you can use these correctly, it's absolutely fine. So let's go to another example for the same thing. This book is mine. So mine is used as a pronoun. But if you say this is my book, so you're describing book using the word my. So my acts as an adjective. It's a possessive adjective or a pronominal adjective. So I highly recommend you to take down some notes because it will be very helpful and you will not forget these little things in grammar. Now let's talk about pronoun of the third person. And okay. So we know that pronoun of the third person is used to refer to those people who are not in the conversation. Some of them, for example, he, she, it, they. And in masculine, we use he. For feminine, it is she. For neutral, let's say for an animal whose gender we don't know, we can use it. And these are for singular, they is for plural. So let's talk more about the pronoun it. Now it is used for things without life. For example, if you're writing an essay about a book or a poem, you can use the word it because definitely you can't use he or she. Then it is also used for animals unless we very clearly want to talk about their gender as well. For example, the dog sat on its tail or the horse broke its leg. Then we can also use it for a young child unless we want to specify the gender very clearly. For example, when I saw the baby, it was laughing. Then it can be used to refer to some statement that was given before. For example, he deserved his punishment. He knew it. He's telling a lie. He knows it. Then it is used as a temporary subject before the real subject is announced. Now for this, I'll give you an example over here. It is easy to lay blame. So you see, the actual subject is this, laying blame. But we've used the pronoun beforehand. It is easy to lay blame. So it is a temporary subject coming before the actual, the real noun. And then it is used to give emphasis to a noun or another pronoun. For example, it was me who did this. So instead of just saying I did this, you're just being more dramatic and emphasizing yourself a lot more. That's why you're adding this. It was me who did this. If you just want to say something simply without dramatizing it, you can just say I did this. And then it is also used as an indefinite nominative. So that is something technical. Indefinite nominative of an impersonal verb. For example, it rains a lot. So we're talking about a verb. In this case, it's not being used as a pronoun. Though you see that mostly, especially in all of these cases, it is used as a pronoun. In the last case, it is not used as a pronoun. Because it rains basically means the rain rains. So that is why it's an indefinitive nominative, and that is why it is known as an impersonal pronoun. So that is something that you should know, that sometimes it can also be called an impersonal pronoun because you don't know which noun is it representing. And the last one is when you talk about the weather. For example, it is hot, it is summer, it is winter. So those are the cases in which you use the word it. Now in this one, let's discuss a little bit more about a personal pronoun again. Now a personal pronoun, let me just call it PP, it's used instead of a noun. That means it must be of the same number. It must be of the same person, first person or second person, and it must be of the same gender. So what we're looking for is consistency. You need to be very clear that the pronoun correctly matches the noun for which you're using it. For example, can you say that, let's say, Troy is my brother. She is 20 years old. No, it won't make sense because she is feminine gender, but Troy is my brother, so clearly masculine gender. Similarly, you can't say Troy is my brother, they is 20 years old, or they are 20 years old, because I'm only talking about one brother, so you cannot use many. Or you cannot say Troy is my brother, her is or him is 20 years old. No, you have to use the subjective case, the nominative case. So you have to use he is 20 years old. So that is what I mean by consistency. Now, when a pronoun, let me note it down here. When a pronoun stands for a collective noun, like a bunch, a team, a pack, it must be in the singular number. And the gender should always be neuter gender. That means we need to view the collective noun as a whole, not as a sum of different parts. For example, the army has arrived at its base camp. Or the herd of elephants was trying to find the land on which it arrived last year. But if the collective noun conveys the idea of separate individuals, then the pronoun must be of plural number. For example, the team received their medals. Now, if the entire team got only one medal for all of them, like one single medal for the entire team, then you would have said the team has got its medal. But when different medals are being handed out to different members of the team, then you need to mention that the team has received their medals. Now let's talk about using more than one noun. Now when two or more nouns are used, the result will obviously be plural, and that is why the pronoun must also be plural. For example, A and B were lost, so they used a map. So the pronoun that I'm using is they, which refers to both A and B. Because let's suppose you wrote a sentence that says A and B were lost. And then you write, so he used a map. Now, first of all, you're referring to only one person. Maybe that's true, that only one of them used the map and the other person did not. But in this case, if you use he, it's not clear. Are you talking about A or are you talking about B? So over here, the pronoun becomes very confusing, and this is actually a problem that is called pronoun ambiguity. That means the pronoun gives you two different meanings. It makes it more confusing. So you have to be very, very clear. And let's talk about a few more grammar rules that are connected with pronouns. For example, if you have either and or, let's say, either the manager or his subordinate. When this is the subject. Now remember, whenever you have subjects like either this or this, neither this nor this, or plain this or this, you always look at the second person or the noun or the pronoun to figure out whether this entire subject is singular or plural. For example, in this sentence, we have either the manager or his subordinates. If you look at the second one, it is plural. So whatever comes in the sentence, the pronoun that will be used for the subject will also be plural. For example, either the manager or his subordinates have lost their sense of humor. But if I reversed this sentence, if I said, neither the subordinates nor their manager. Now in this case, subordinates is shifted to the front, manager is at the second place, and we need to consider the word at the second place, which is singular. So we will say neither the subordinates nor their manager has lost his sense of humor. So you see what I'm doing here? I'm only looking at what comes after the or the nor. And then when you have a combination of pronouns, how do you know which one to use when? But by following good manners, it's always a good idea to keep yourself at the end. For example, you and I have a lot to discuss. You and Mike are supposed to do this. He and I are friends. You and he must mend ways. So you see, there is an order that is over here. At the end comes the person who is actually speaking. Then comes the person which is at the third place. And in the beginning, you always begin with the second person. So this is the order that you have to follow. Let's say you have a sentence with one first person pronoun and one second person pronoun. You will put the two before the one. In this case, you have a second person pronoun and you have a third person, Mike. So we're talking about a third person who is not in the conversation. So you always put second before third. He, which is number 3, third kind of pronoun. And then I, which is the first person pronoun. So again, 3 will come before 1. Similarly, you and he, 2 will come before 3. So just remember this order. 2 comes before 3 and 3 comes before 1. Or in the other words, 2 comes before 1. So just remember this little code 231 and you should be able to figure out how to write all of these things. Alright, so that is all that we will be covering in this video on pronouns. And if you have any feedback about the video or you have any questions or doubts or queries, don't forget to mail us at this address, which is support@perfectscores.org. And don't forget to share us at Facebook, Twitter, and give us your valuable likes and feedback. Thank you so much. This is Preetinder Kaur for Perfect Scores.